So during this session, we want to find out what modern entrepreneurs and successful startups are all about. So we're going to consider a few things. We want to look at what's needed to take a great idea or cutting-edge technology and to grow that into a successful and profitable and covetable business. We want to look at the common traits of leaders of successful startups and consider whether they can be learnt as well. And we want to look at the challenges of launching and breaking into the broadcast and media industry. With me is Sergio Grace. Sergio is founder and CEO of iSize. Sergio has an investment banking background, having worked at Merrill Lynch, Nomura, and RBS. iSize, which he founded in 2016, uses machine learning for its codec-independent, proprietary cloud-based visual perception optimization technology. iSize made its debut at IBC this year, where it presented a technical paper on how to make deep neural networks work in conjunction with existing and upcoming video codecs to show substantial savings in bit rates and improve visual quality. Also joined by Vinay Solanki. Vinay is head of UK broadcaster Channel 4's Commercial Growth Fund, which exchanges the channel's ad assets for small equity stakes. Vinay's held the role since 2015 when the fund launched, and prior to that, he was Director of Strategic Development at Getty, where he focused on partnerships and M&A. And before that, he was Strategy and Corporate Development Director at Liberty Global, where he appraised M&A targets and evaluated business initiatives. So Sergio and Vinay are going to share their experiences of establishing, running, growing, identifying, mentoring, and funding early-stage businesses. So please, during the conversation, share any of your questions that you might have over the Slido app, and we'll try to come to them whilst we're chatting. So Sergio, just to begin and get us started, can you give us a very brief overview of iSize, perhaps some use cases of the technology and maybe some clients as well?
Sure. There is definitely a significant increase in demand for video streaming in a high quality, and it's only growing. Maria mentioned Netflix, mentioned Disney Plus, mentioned Apple. Everybody is getting into streaming high quality videos over the internet. We know that Netflix is representing currently 15% of the whole internet traffic, YouTube just over 11%. Our vision is to cut this internet traffic obstacle by about 20% by giving our customers around 30% bitrate saving with any existing codec. So we tested with every generation, so from AVC, from HEVC, even with the VVC. So when our technology is added to these codecs, it is showing substantial saving in the bitrate. So just, I guess, to say that it's totally codec agnostic, obviously is available now. And what we do is we analyze the bit stream. So to make sure that the codec environment is not totally unaware that there is a change in the file that is getting into a codec, and the outcome is the file that is about 20, 30, even up to 70% smaller to be streamed over the internet.
Okay, perfect, thank you. And Vinay, since it launched 4 years ago, Channel 4's invested in 18 businesses at the last count. Can you briefly tell us a little bit about a few of those businesses and your role in that process as well?
It's slightly different from Sergio's world. And Channel 4's main business model is making money from advertising, and that's brand marketing. And the digital platforms provide acquisition marketing, like cheaper, more accurate. I go to digital consumer companies, which are new categories across all consumer verticals, and I give them a bit of that inventory, and then I take a few shares for it, and I invest alongside other VCs. So, and I've invested alongside pretty much every single VC. Some of the companies we've invested in are right across the broad consumer spectrum, and we're not like a controlling investor, we're a passive investor. We're sitting on the bus, not driving the bus. But I've invested in Pinterest, which I recently sold the shares, which is a business which IPO'd. earlier this year. I invested in a business called Eve, which is a direct-to-consumer mattress business, competes with Casper, also IPO'd. I invested in a more media one is like Readly, which is a Netflix for magazines, which is out of Stockholm. Yeah, and I've invested in a bunch of international businesses, and so it's we're kind of looking outside at categories which are over-indexing on growing in terms of capital growth, and probably spending money on Google and Facebook for their customer acquisition, and we're trying to.
And that's the attraction of.
No, we're trying to help them make the leap into brand marketing on television.
Okay, so Sergio, you start with a great idea, piece of really innovative technology. What's the first step in transforming that into a business? Where do you begin?
Finding the right people that fit to what we want to do. A founder, then the team that believes in the idea that we're trying to develop, then get the investors early that will believe and support the company that we're trying to develop. And then once the technology is in place, and then the testing begins, then it's really about the trial and error. It's about going in front of the clients, speaking to the right people, getting some answers which we don't know at the early stages, and really focusing on just getting the help to define the business model, pricing, and kind of market fit for our company.
And for you guys in particular, what sort of timescales would you attach to some of those processes? So when you talk about finding the right people, how lengthy a process is that?
I guess from the early beginning, we have connected to the people which are not linked to the salary. So they believed in what we wanted. So our burn rate is very small even now. So we live for the last 2 years on a very, very minimal investment, simply because everybody is believing in what they're doing. They have a cut in the game in the shape of share options, and therefore, hiring somebody, nobody left the company in the last 2 years, and kind of nobody's even getting paid. So that's I think that's quite important, that you believe as a founder, you find another founder that also has a very strong vision about where we want to be, and even if you get acquired, these guys are excited to go and continue to do this in whatever company gets you acquired.
And broadcast media is an industry which I guess you could argue traditionally has been dominated by some large vendors. So how have you approached that process of trying to break through and to cut through some of that noise and raise your profile?
Yeah, it's definitely not easy, but once the technology was done, then we started going to industry conferences. So to give you an example, IBC was a breakthrough for us. We got invited to present our technical paper at IBC. We presented our technology and demoed in the Future Zone, which attracted a lot of attention from global players. And we won the even award in the Future Zone as the most innovative company. So that was good. Then, transparency, I think, is quite important. We publish all our papers, all our technology through the papers for industry to see what we're doing. It's not a black box that we don't want to share. We don't obviously disclose our IP, but we are kind of giving an idea of what we are doing. And then the last thing is, I guess, is the networking, is being connected to the right people. I come from a very different background. My co-founder is a professor at the university in the field, so we don't know what problems this industry has. We need to connect to the industry to understand what angles we can develop our technology. But what we know is there is definitely a huge demand in reduction of a cost to stream the videos.
Vinay, what would you say is the kind of typical process for you in identifying an organisation that you would be keen or happy to invest in?
Using airtime. So remember, we're looking for categories which are growing, categories which are predisposed to spending their marketing money on Google and Facebook, and which are receiving high amounts or high volumes of venture capital activity. We might look at adjacent markets, like US is like a big influence on the flavors of things that we're investing in. We look for then great management teams, some passion, some desire, fit, some magic you can't quite put on paper.
And can you maybe attach a figure to the proportion that might come to you versus you going and seeking them out?
To be honest, as soon as you put your hand up and you're saying we're working for a corporate and we're investing, you generally have more than you can kind of go out to. I'd say the more interesting ones are ones we go out to. So I like to think that most of the good deals we've done are ones that I've gone out to, but we're going through quite a lot of inbound.
Yeah.
And there's also like there's this kind of cycle as well. Like no often means not now, and so coming back again to staying in touch, finding when the timing's right on both sides.
And why might you say no to an organisation, and in the sense of no, not now, later on? What?
We say categorically no when we think it's not going to work. It's not going to be commercially scalable. We don't like the management team. We don't think the product's got any. We think the valuation's crazy. We don't like the share cap table.
And what might be a reason, for example, to say not now, but perhaps in 6 months?
Maturity, development of the proposition, more proof points, more like more proof points. That's probably the most common one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to what extent do you invest in either the technology or the business or the people? Do you prioritize one over the other?
No, not really. I think it's like a bit of a kind of cauldron, really. So you've got to pick. It's a bit of everything, but like if there's like a kind of swing factor. So usually ideas are not in short supply. Sometimes the tech is not hugely in short supply. Sometimes the execution is kind of comparable too, but it's kind of like I often. If that's all relatively even, then I look at certain aspects of maybe the execution and the management team, and particularly because often when you're investing very early stage, by the time you're getting your money out, which could be like 7 years later in venture, the business might have completely changed. So you're backing the person ultimately, but it's like, is that person a chameleon, and can they change? And it will, like will Sergio in 7 years' time be doing exactly what he's saying right now? It's highly unlikely. It's not like it'll have evolved. It's probably similar, but like it will have evolved. And how well is that team at adapting to the changes?
Yeah, we definitely learned on our mistakes and innovated further, and to an extent changed the business model throughout the last 3 years to be where we are now.
Yeah. And so are you looking for, you spoke about the importance of finding the right people that buy into the idea and that kind of vision that you have as well. Are you looking also for that ability to change and to sort of morph and to grow with the business as well?
I guess for us, investment at the early stages was going to people that are know us or know me or know my co-founder and believe in us as a people that we will deliver whatever we do. In this case, to deliver this technology. It evolved to, my advice also is don't get from one person or a family or something. It's more getting it from, we have 16 different investors. Yes, I know all of them. Yes, they all know me. They trust me. Will I be successful as much as they want in their head? Maybe not, maybe yes, who knows? But I think that was approached because that's also a rain check for us to know that, it's not only one who is emotionally connected to us, like a plethora of people that are looking at what we do and believe in what we do. Now we're at the stage where we're getting approached by the funds because of the trials that we're doing with the different companies. And now this is institutional money, is totally different ball game. They want many different things to show, and we're trying to do that at the moment.
And for those businesses that take investment, we've heard it spoken about earlier in some of the other earlier discussions and keynotes. How important is it to maintain that entrepreneurial mindset, and how do you do that?
What's that?
Well, if you're investing in a startup, you'd hope that they've got an entrepreneurial mindset. But what does that mean? It means,
I guess, is there any danger of that balance being tipped or it being diluted, perhaps, following investment? How do you kind of guard against that?
No, I mean, look, if you're investing in early stage, that's less than 5 years old, or it's 8 years old, because it's not hard and fast. There's so much change out there. The digital's forcing change. Hopefully, you're putting your money in a place where, you're seeing something that the company can deliver, that your company, that is an opportunity, they should be de facto in the like high-paced, change adaptable mindset. If you're not, like the kind of corporate venture activity generally putting money there. So I think it's kind of like a hygiene factor. Like I think it self-protects itself. Like unless you're going for super late stage, later, more mature companies, I don't know, 10 or 15 years, or businesses which have rapidly turned into cash cows, then that's something that I'd be looking out for. Is like, like you're coming in because it's maybe generating cash, but and there's some, like some structural issues, maybe that you'd be looking to see that the management team have got a clear plan for how they're going to get that cash to grow again if it's been maturing.
There is definitely a lot of learning for us when we talk to investors. On the technical side, we're obviously very capable, but technology is one thing, and the business is a totally different thing. So there is definitely a lot for us that we're learning at the moment from current discussions with investors.
Question that's come through on Slido, and it's one for you, Vinay.
Yeah.
And it is effectively you're picking winners. How early do you invest? Early stage or nursery? And do you only invest alongside others?
Yeah, you know what? I'm building a portfolio, so I hope in my portfolio there are more winners than losers. But the venture game is not about, like deep down, I'd say it's a portfolio game. I hope I pick more winners than losers. And I hope, our investment model helps them become a winner, right? So early is like pre-Series A. That means like a company with a product and probably some signs of revenue, although I've done some pre-revenue deals in marketplaces. Yeah, I don't do seed or nursery. I think that's what that means. Do you only invest alongside others? Yeah, usually, yeah.
And another one that's related, I guess, is around your mission, whether it's revenue generation. And feel free to answer this one. What percentage of your deals generate a loss?
It's not known yet, because like you're putting the wine in the bunker, right? And I don't know whether it's going to taste good or not, right? So I'll avoid that question. I can't read it. It's gone. That question's gone. What was the rest?
No, we've lost it.
We've lost the question. All right, that's good. All right.
So yeah, nice way of dealing with that one. Okay, we'll come back to Slido in a moment. So something I wanted to cover off with both of you really is that there is a consistent message from a lot of the technology leaders at broadcasters and media firms as well, that we're facing a very complex environment, more content having to be delivered to an ever-increasing range of platforms, and that they are interested in adopting a much more consultative approach and working with their suppliers and working with their vendors. So I'm interested to know, when you are in a startup position where perhaps you might be have a smaller workforce, how would you contend with that? How do you make the time to take that consultative approach with your customers?
Yeah, that's definitely a problem for a company of 10 people, majority of which are technical. And what we did is we developed our SaaS platform. And first purpose was for people to be able to go there and test without us having to communicate with each of them. And then I guess it's also learning who are our customers, who is our market, and also who within those markets and those companies, who is the right person to talk to. A tech person has an incentive to test the technology forever, right? Where we saw at the early beginnings, we only spoke to tech people, and it never led to anywhere. When we started involving the business people, the things started to move simply because the tech people have to report to the business people, and business people have quotas to invest in the companies, to buy the companies, to license technologies. So that's definitely knowing who to speak to within the organization. And then, again, mentioning we're not from this industry, getting from being involved with IABM, with CDL, with IBC, NAB, learning who these people are, getting to know them. But now we're in the stage of trying to find the advisors which can advise us in certain areas of how much these companies are spending per person for the streaming. So to answer these kind of questions is very important for us to be able to commercialize the product fast.
Okay. Just going back to Slido.
That question's appeared again, hasn't it? Shall I do it?
Yes, go on.
Okay, so like the question is it revenue generation, and what's the mission? Yeah, that can be very firmly kind of answered, and I think I'm at the kind of toe in the water of that. So look, there's a big problem going on in the marketing services world. Marketing services world has been disrupted by Google and Facebook that can do, like a certain kind of advertising. I think historically, brand marketing is where assets like Channel 4, media owners like Channel 4 has helped. Brand marketing is actually pretty hard to do on digital. So if you're watching, I don't know, you're spending 44 minutes a day on your digital channels, and some of that is at the bus stop or while sitting on the loo. You're not kind of like in a relaxed state to kind of receive premium advertising, brand safe advertising. That's what a USP is. So the mission is really to try and claw back a little bit of advertising that is currently being spent on Google and Facebook into the favor of like brand marketing. I've got a lot of data. I've done quite a number of investments now, and being an equity holder, I can analyze the data very differently to agency so I've seen the very, very positive correlation between a successful brand marketing impact and digital marketing. Basically, you save cash. It's really, really effective. This sort of data has been hard to get hold of because it's kind of like it's kind of held within private companies. I think the mission is really there. I think it's more like there's clearly like a component. So I don't think it's revenue generation necessarily. I think it's kind of like cultural kind of progression. I think there's been last 10 years, if you had like money and you came up with a good idea, let's take mattresses, and you came up with a brand and you sourced the mattress, and you could launch it on Google because you find those people right at the bottom of the funnel who are looking to buy a mattress. That's great. That's resulted in like millions of pounds or billions of pounds going into venture capital, which all pursuing the same marketing strategy. So I'm actually leading up a little bit of cultural change in the world of marketing, which is over-indexed on digital marketing and under-indexed on the impact of television and improving that. So that's the mission. Of course, it does make money. So it's very, very profitable activity for, in its current shape and form. I don't know how big you can scale it though.
Okay. And Sergio, I just wanted to ask you about some of the early stages, and without this turning into a therapy session, can you tell us what the lowest or toughest moment has been so far in the journey of iSize, and perhaps share what lessons you might have learned in those periods?
I guess the usual case that also happened to us is a technical founder leaving for the personal reasons. What do you do? Do you give up? So one advice is stay driven, stay persistent, don't give up. So that played relatively well. We found a new founder. He's even better than the previous one, and happy days. Adjusting lifestyle from the corporate world and having that paycheck every month to having nothing for several years is very difficult, but it's also an emotional feeling. So we can live with much less than what we used to. So that was definitely challenging, but doable. I think another emotional problem is in the corporate world, we all have some kind of goals, and when we reach those goals, the company pays us a bonus, whether it's in banking or broadcasting, whatever. Here, we have a company which makes us believe that tomorrow they're going to sign, they're going to use, and we're all happy and everything, and then suddenly they don't answer to an email whatsoever. So there is lots of ups and downs emotionally. So that you need to, as a founder.
So I guess quite a big job in motivating
people and motivating yourself.
Yeah.
You're a founder. There are times where I am down, my founder steps in and brings me up, and the other way around. And just really staying focused, being persistent and pushing. We know what the goal is. We know that there is a problem. We know that we can solve it. We know we're among the first companies to bring this approach to the market. Is how to convince these people to come to us and try us. It's a website trial. It's free. So that's it, really.
Okay, and we're almost out of time. So just finally, Vinay, I wanted to ask you if there is a particular piece of advice that you find you're always sharing with corporates working with startups.
The biggest one I say is just do it. So I think you can corporates can get into a mindset where they want the perfect solution, the perfect they feel like they're planning their perfect wedding when they kind of want to do something innovative. It's like, it's not, it's about portfolio, get on, play, experiment, expect some failure, but take those learnings and learn and improve the next time and build a portfolio too. So I think Channel 4 could have started this 10 years ago and it would be a much bigger activity and we'd have a much bigger and valuable, stuff in the wine cellar.
Yeah.
Would be more interesting. So
go for it.
So just do it, yeah.
Okay. Well, we're out of time now and I'm conscious of the fact that it's us that is between you and the coffee break. So we'll draw it to a close there. So please join me in thanking Sergio and Vinay as well. Thank you.